All right, today we're going to talk about Vic Maps. What is a Vic Map? A Vic Map stands for Vicinity Map. And during the design process, the engineer will submit plans, or the architect will submit plans and various surveys along the length of the project to the planning department or the permitting department, or whatever the government agency is that's approving the build, and they will require a vicinity map. What a vicinity map or a Vic map does is allow someone to find the location of the site quickly from a broad spectrum. This is more of like, a 15-mile, 20-mile viewpoint from the job site outward. What you really want to show is the nearest cities, the nearest roads, and how they can arrive there quickly from the nearest cities from these major arteries of roadways. So here you can see I have a basic template set up and laid out. There is a job already set up in here that I'm not showing currently. And then there's a Vic Map window. This is typically how it is set up and shown. And on a Vic Map, you will have a north arrow. It's usually not to scale because it's so far out on a view, but sometimes it will be to scale. It just depends on your engineering group. It just depends on the company that you work for, the company who is supplying the plans and designs or architecture, whether or not they decide to make it to scale. But most places will not bother because it just reduces the liability. All right, so we're going to draw something that fits in here, and some companies will do it where they draw it off in the model space, off away from the site in a whole nother space, and then they just set this viewport so that it's centered over the actual line work for the Vic map that they've drawn. And it's not in the actual correct space in relation to the site. They just make it appear that way so that it appears in this window to show it correctly. What I like to do is actually draw it in direct relation to the site that I'm developing or working on, the line work for the site itself in the model space in the real world. Now I have this drawing set up to Texas. We're set up to our north central zone, US foot. That's typically what we use here. You might use something else. You could be in metric if you're in another country. If you're in another state, obviously you might be on a different state plane, but typically here in the United States, we use state plane system. So that's set up for state plane. All right, now I want to know where my site is first. And typically at this point, you already know where your boundary is for your site. So in this case, I'm just going to draw a pretend boundary. I've turned on my GeoMap for an aerial point of view, and that gives me the satellite imagery that's built into AutoCAD. And what I'm going to do is just draw a pretend boundary here just for the sake of what we're doing for this project. I'll use a polyline. Let's say it's going to go from here. There's going to be a pin there. And let's say this property line is going to run right up this county road because we're out in the middle of nowhere. We'll go up to this section corner that looks like a section. We'll go up to this section corner, which is county road for county road. We'll go here. Obviously in land surveying, we are actually measuring found monumentation. Let's go to here because this looks like a major road, so it probably has a dedicated right of way. Let's go down to this section here. And then we can just go ahead and close it all the way back down. All right, so this is going to be our site. I did something a little funny here because I'm going to make this an arc to follow this curve. We'll do something like this. All right, so now that's more of like the site itself. All right, so this will be my site. Now you can see I've got a city here, a little town here. That's pretty close. And I have a river going through here. Looks like here's another little, maybe this is a little small sound. This is a whole section. This could be a little neighborhood. This could be a small town. Looking over here, here's another town. This is a little larger for this area. So I think I want to show this town and the river and maybe this town here. But ideally what I'm going to show is where my site is in relation to these towns and the river, so they'll instantly know, looking at the vicinity map, that the town is south of the river and between these two towns, just north of here, you know, so on and so forth. And these are the roads you can get there. So what I'll do is I'm going to draw the towns first. I'm going to set up my layer. I'm going to draw everything on one layer, which is unique because normally you use layer control, but for the vicinity map, now this has nothing to do with the actual site, the engineering of the site, the surveying of the site itself. This is only for the vicinity map. So because of that, I'm going to draw this all on one layer. And I'm going to use the line weights, I'm going to use line types and coloring in order to differentiate the different layers, or to differentiate the different lines, and labels to show the differences where I would normally do that with layer control. I'm just going to put it all on one layer. So my first thing I want to do is, I know I'm going to draw these two. Actually, what I might do, I have this set up already. What I like to do is on the 0 layer is draw a rectangle around the area that I want to capture for my Vic map. So in this case, I've already set this up. So what I'm going to do is draw a rectangle here, and I'm going to throw it into this viewport. So I'll click inside the viewport window, then I'll click back out because I'm going to use a command called change space. And it's going to change space to the last accessed space. So if I had clicked this window over here, then it will throw this rectangle in reference to this window. But I don't want to do that. I want to throw it right here. So now it's thrown inside. I right click. Okay, it's done. Now I can click out, and then I can go to model space, and you'll see here is my rectangle now in reference to this window here. So you can see if I were to draw, if I turn my map off, and if I were to draw a polyline across this dog ear here, when you go here, and then you'll see it here, dog ear. So it's in direct reference to this window now. All right, so now I can go to Vic Map, GI Vic Map layer, and I'm going to draw everything else on this layer. Now this is my actual boundary, which in this case, we use a V for surveying and then boundary. Let's pretend that that's an actual solved boundary for surveying, and this is going to be my site. So everything else I'm going to draw. Now I just want to be able to look at a map. Now this is something that you can import from another site, from Google Maps, or another site where you take a screenshot of the area. AutoCAD has this built in, so I'm just going to use the tools that are built in. And I can use the streets, roads. So here is a good way to draw the roads very fast, the railroads, the county lines, the river, the lakes. But you can see it doesn't show the cities, it just shows the roads. Well, what I want to show in the cities to make them stand out, or the towns, I'm going to use the aerial view, and I'm going to draw around the populated area. This is something I like to do, and I think it really makes the town pop, and I believe it makes it look familiar to the people who are from the area. You can also see the size of the city very quickly. All right, so I'm on Vic Map, and I'm just going to use the line weight by layer. Actually, we can use the line weight by default, line type by layer, color by layer. We're just going to use standard for now, and then I have a table already set up where I've created every one of the Vic maps. I use the same line weights depending on the road itself. So here, I'm just going to draw a polyline, and I think I'll start here. You can kind of see like this is farm field, that's farm field, and so I'm just going to start right here. And I'm going to turn my locks, my snaps off. This is not meant to be a very precise depiction of the city or the town. What I'm trying to do is give the Vic map a feel of the populated area of the town itself. And so I might miss some houses every now and then, or miss some sections. You know, maybe I come down here, come over, up. Kind of like this. The road. And I'll capture this. This looks like it might be an orchard. And you probably see this business owner. This farmer is at the cafe every now and then. So we want to include him in the town. Come down here. I might bring this all the way over to here. Just for time's sake. You could really get as detailed as you want, but ideally, that's all I'm looking for right now. So that's one town. Let's go over here. I'm going to do this town as well. Oh, this one's got a little tail on it. That one's look pretty cool. So I've got like, what is that, a railway? You know what I could go ahead and do as well is this river. Now with a river, I might actually go trigger happy with my mouse. And here I'm coming out of the line and just give it a little overlap. All right, so that's going to be my river. You can see as I zoom out, it doesn't quite matter how much I stay in it. You can see here I come out a little bit, but you don't even see it when you're out here. Ideally. All right, looking for another city inside the box. What's this guy here? What I might do is say, oh, that's Rhineland. Okay. It's a German town they built. Oh, there's Benjamin, Knox City, Monday. Benjamin's outside of our box, but Rhineland is in it. So I'm going to include Rhineland. Okay, so now I got the towns drawn. I might move into, I'm gonna go ahead and, before I hatch them, I'm gonna go ahead and draw some roads. So I'll switch to road. And from here, I'll just follow state highway. Polyline, starting just outside the square. Again, it's just something to show One thing I do like to do as well is change this color so I can see it a little better. Here's red. Pick up where I left off. My snap. And then now I'll see the red. I can see a little better. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to isolate these. I can also turn off my map so they're easy to see. I'm going to throw in a hatch. I'm on Vic Map red. I'm going to hatch in each one individually so they're separate. If I had clicked all three, it would be one big hatch. Send it to the back because I want this line to show up more. Now, when I isolate these, I'm going to bring these guys up to the top. Display, bring to the front. See how they cover the line? Because we know the road goes through the city. I'm going to bring my boundary up to the top. And I'm going to send the river to the bottom. All right, so next, now I can get rid of this. I'm done with that. This is starting to look more like a Vic map, but I have some items here. Let's see, let me turn on my layer manager. This guy here. I'm going to move this over here. This has my sizing for farm to market. This is also market to market. I'll use that. County road is a little larger. State highway, US highway, interstate, waterway, town. This is the edge, site area. All right, next, I also want to hatch my site area. So I'm going to isolate this guy. I'm going to isolate these. And I'll throw a hatch inside this closed line. I'm going to throw it to the back. And then I'm going to match the properties of my table here to here. Now I can end my isolation. All right, so now you can see my site. Now I've already labeled these. That's why you see this like this. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and paint each one of these. We'll start with the waterway. Now as it pops, as it blows up in size there, it really starts to pop. All right, and then we're going to say I don't have any interstates. I've got US Highway 27. I've got State Highway. Let's do that one next. 222, State Highway 6 South. Then I have an FM. City, Monday, Rhineland, Brazos River, State Highway. Now we're looking like a Vic map to the site. So let me move this out of the way. This is something I just keep in a template and I bring it in when I need it. And then when you go to the layout, you can see how much this now looks like a vicinity map. And it adds some scale to the site without a proper scale. It adds some depth. You can see Knox City. People in this area are familiar with how Knox City is shaped in relation to Monday or Rhineland. They're probably familiar with these different FM and county roads, and so they can see this very quickly, and they know, okay, from Knox City I can take State Highway 222 and hit the site. From Rhineland I can just come right down FM 267, etc. And that's a quick way. I mean, that took 15 minutes, and you have something that is on an art level. It makes people feel comfortable. It makes them enjoy what they're seeing, and all of those things. As soon as someone feels the pleasure of a positive image, they're already happy with the job, regardless of what they've done or looked at. Stuff like this really adds to the impact of the successful job. Takes a few minutes, but it looks good in the end.